Gentlemen, ladies, and anyone in between, I welcome you all. And I don't quite know how to describe what we're going to be doing in today's video. It's not really a review, although I will touch on some of the aspects of the reel that make it one of the best on the market. This, my friends, is a reel that was submitted to me by a very generous subscriber, Oscar, all the way from Australia. Sent me his Daiwa Exist. And a couple weeks ago, Josh reached out to me from J&H Tackle, saying he had a client whose Daiwa Exist got run over by a truck, and he wanted to see if I could do anything for him. From what I understand, he has the spare body, or the replacement body, and we're going to go ahead and swap all the guts. So, we're going to be doing a teardown. We're going to try to get all the parts out. I don't even know what it looks like as of yet. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and crack the pack. I don't even know what this is going to look like. Okay, there's nothing remaining. There's a plastic liner in there. That's nothing of importance. Okay. Wow. This weighs like nothing. Where's my scale at? This is the body. Do I have my scale handy? I want to get a weight on that. All right. Wow, almost 1 ounce on the button. Look at that. That's freakishly light. And while we have it in its bare form, let's take a look at what's involved with this monocoque design. Very interesting. Now, I already see something that's going to be a little tricky. See this little hole right here? If I'm not mistaken, at least on the Certate, there is a, I want to say stainless, non-magnesium puck that goes here that you mount the idler gear. So, alright, we're going to see what we can do here. And, oh, poor baby. That's the handle. He broke his foot. He broke his leg. Uh-huh. I mean, it doesn't feel like there's anything else wrong with it. It doesn't look like there's any damage to the spool. All right. So I had to get the spool out of the way. And, yeah, so let's get the show on the road, my friends. First, we're going to go ahead and remove the spool support. Now, in terms of a review, okay, you have the Daiwa Exist and the Shimano Stella at the top of the heap in terms of small, compact. We'll say, I don't want to say specifically freshwater, but it's that kind of size at the top of the heap. Now, as much as I love the Stella, and I've seen some reviews that compared these reels, and they never really came up to a solid conclusion of which one's better. Which I understand. It's you know, it's tough because they're spectacular reels. In terms of refinement, ooh, okay, we'll get to this in a second. They're second to none. There's never been a reel that equals these two next to the Certate in refinement. We hate when that happens. The inverse clutch sleeve came out with the rotor, which happens. And we have our stash of ferro fluid to replace that because we're going to have to clean off that. But when it comes to comparing the Exist to the Stella, They are two different reels. The Stella is not a featherweight. This reel weighs next to nothing. I mean, this all in, I think this reel weighs like 6 ounces, which is significantly lighter and noticeably lighter than the Stella. Okay, so just like the cert tape. The Exist uses black coated screws here versus non-painted screws on the Certate. But it looks to be identical, which is good. I'll remove, I'll put this, try to keep everything as organized as possible. Oh, that's strange. Everything wants to come out separately. Usually the magnetism from that ring connects to that. We're gonna have to clean all this out. This reel's seen some abuse, some hard use, which is always good to see. And by golly, the Exist is a magnificent reel to fish. It really is. And despite the monocoque and the mag seal and the magnesium, yada yada yada, it's a simple reel to work on. The only thing that makes it tricky is getting into it. And thank you, Oscar, who sent me his Exist. He also sent me the side plate tool. This is a fairly expensive tool, tough to get your hands on. And it's required to get in. So this is, looking at this, so goofy without the handle or the reel stem. All right. And one of the differences between this, the Exist, and the Certate, the side plate bearings are mag sealed. You can see some of that ferrofluid came out through that gap since I used a magnet. The reason why I did that is in order to get the main gear out, we kind of want to remove that opposite side bearing to give the main gear some wiggle room. But despite all the bells and whistles and the advertising mumbo jumbo, it's a fairly simple reel, which is kind of what you want. So I don't know, are we going to be able to get this out? One thing Daiwa does that not many other companies do, come on, they have an O-ring on the axle that kind of makes it so that the ball bearings stay put. So they're kind of a pain. We don't want to put too much pressure on them. We don't want to squeeze too much, but you can see this O-ring. That O-ring kind of sticks too. See? It's not going any further. Got to use some pressure. Kind of locks the main gear to the bearing. Just adds to the overall refinement. And we're not going to be able to pull the main gear out. Unless we get this bearing out of its pocket. And let's see. Hang on a second, guys. Might have to do this out of frame. We're a little bit more aggressive with the magnet, and it popped right out. Pop that right there. Main gear should easily come out of its home. Very familiar main gear. We've seen this in many of the other LT reels. When you compare Shimano to Daiwa, if I'm not mistaken, Shimano's going to give you a little bit upgraded main gear over some of its lesser reels, like the Twin Power and Sustain and Stratic. Gonna go and try to remove the boot here. We removed it. Now on the Certate, there's another screw here. Alright, I'll get back to that in a moment. Let's go ahead and try to remove the main shaft. Lots of Loctite on that, or very stiff coming out. Doesn't quite want to come out now, does it? Now we also have the screw here that holds the oscillation cam gear, which you got to be very careful. This could end our dismantling because it's Loctited into that pocket, that metal pocket, which doesn't seem to be, see right here? We're going to have to figure out what it takes to get this trim piece out. That piece is not there on the Certate. It's another larger diameter ring. But we need to get this out. So we're using tons. Oh, that was easy. And that seems to be what releases that. Okay. Okay. That was simple. I like that. So this is all one piece. So that ring that I was concerned about, which I thought was just a beauty plate, is what the oscillation cam gear goes on. All right, cool. We like those kind of surprises. Super simple. Now, how the heck do we get... What is keeping... the boot in place? Okay, let's see. Is it something that comes out real easy on Oscar's reel? That's what we're going to find out. No, it's not. Okay, so there's something else going on there. What exactly it is, I don't know.
Okay, let's see if we can't remove this little boot here, so gasket, rubber brake. Okay.
Gonna use a viewfinder and see. Alright, now it looks like we have a slotted screw of sorts underneath that gasket. I can feel something loosening, so hopefully that's all it is. Aha. Yep. Beautiful. Now it should come off without any fuss. Yes. Okay, so we didn't have to remove that screw for the main shaft because it came out from the opposite direction. Beautiful. The rubber gasket. Bingo. All right, now it looks like we're back to square one. Bingo. All right, let's start putting it back together. That was easy. All right, now we found our lube of choice, and we're going to kind of clean up some of these parts. We're not going to remove the shaft that supports the oscillation and main shaft. We're just going to clean it. We're going to remove it. It was just sitting so pretty inside the rear boot. So, all right, so that's cleaned, reinserted, and we're going to go ahead now and center that. We're going to temporarily put this side cap back on, just temporarily, just so we can have something that keeps that centered for now. All right. And now we have okay, we're not putting tons of pressure on that screw yet. We're just getting everything kind of halfway fitted. I'm going to use a little bit of lube. We already applied some of this grease on the underside of that friction mitigating washer. And we're going to apply the leftover to the teeth. Not really needed, but we're thorough. We're a saltwater guy. This is very, very light grease too, so it won't add any resistance. Okay. I'm going to go ahead now and clean off the pinion gear and main gear, degreasing all of it. All right, now that we've degreased and thoroughly cleaned the main and pinion gear, we've noticed there's a touch of corrosion right here. And the reason why I'm pointing that out is I'm going to put a little bit of protective layer of grease, but I remember at the Bassmaster Classic when I was talking to some of the higher ups at Daiwa about the difference between the USDM and the JDM Daiwa Exist, because you could have gotten the Exist from Japan for much less, and yada yada yada. And I was told that they put an additional coating, anodized coating, on the main gear and an additional coating on the body to prevent corrosion. Guess it didn't work. Let's see here now. We're going to use our concoction of lube. I'm going to lube up this area where the tensioning washer goes, which is then going to hold and support the bearing at the base of the pinion, like so. We're going to go sleeve the pinion around the main shaft. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're going to apply a little bit of lubricant to the base of the rear boot. Just going to smear it on there so it sticks and does a good job sealing. Again, we're a saltwater guy, So we like to do things to protect against saltwater intrusion. Now, we have this shaft here. We also notice these little itty bitty tiny washers. Lord knows why they're even there, but they're there. Okay. So that's going to go... Okay. So I think that's backwards. Hopefully this is in frame and in focus. Such a little touchy type of installation process. Bingo. Okay. Now we can put the boot back in place, and we're going to install the lower hatch. And we still have some grease residue, which is our friend. Bingo. I'm going to put this in place just so we can get everything lined up and make the rest of the assembly or reassembly easier on ourselves. Just snug it up gently. Okay. Now, where were we? Just leaving the pinion down. Perfecto. Beautiful. Nicey nice. Okay, next up we have the bearing assembly that encompasses the pinion, which I believe has the bushing, the bearing, which, you know what? Apply a very small amount of grease so we don't add any resistance. Again, this is very, very lightweight grease. Then there was another ring that went down, and then we have the top bearing retaining plate. We didn't even snug that up, we just kept it loose because we want to make sure it's seated. Yep. Now we can snug it up. Okay. Look like we're in good shape. Push out that side plate bearing so we can get the main gear lubricated and installed. I'm going to clean off our hands. really grease up this main gear, since we already saw some corrosion had gotten past that anodization. Alrighty, we'll go ahead now and a little bit of grease around the threads of this, just so we don't have any galling. We're not going to touch any of the lubrication on the ball bearings. These are mag sealed, and we're assuming they're good. We just had to rotate the pinion just a tad. Okay. Beautiful. Now the only thing that's left now is to reassemble the anti-reverse clutch. I'm going to clean that out. I'm going to clean this out, clean the rotor, and get everything fully reassembled. Making good progress. We're almost done. Alright, now that we've cleaned up all the sensitive bits, we're now in the home stretch. Let's go ahead now and get the bail kip. Alright, now that we've gone ahead and cleaned up the sensitive bits in the bench. Alright, now that we've gone ahead and cleaned up the sensitive bits, we're now in the home stretch. Let's go ahead now and reinstall the bail trip ramp, like so. And since it rotates this way, you want the slope of the ramp going that way. And is this how it goes in? Is it? Maybe not. Uh-huh. Okay. I see, says the blind man. That's better. Unfortunately, we don't have the fancy Daiwa screwdriver. Are we like stupid or something? Why is this so difficult? There we go. Now we're going to go ahead, tighten up the bottom, making sure that the boot is centered. It is. And whatever you do, never over tighten these screws that go into these metallized plastic hatches. This goes for Shimano reels especially. Looks good. I believe this is the right orientation. And being gentle may look like I'm being rough, but I'm being deliberate. Grab our O-ring manipulation tool / pick tool. Not quite sure. Hold on a second. Okay, so it looks like that stays up top there. Does that look right? I guess. Is that right? Is that right? Now, in terms of reinstalling the mag seal unit at the anti-reverse clutch, the Certate and the Exist are far and away the easiest. Sounds odd, I know, but it's just one of them things. That you don't have to worry about centering the clutch sleeve in that gap, which is a pain in the arse. So you get the whole reel put back together, and then you have to play, musical chairs with the screws and the retaining ring to make sure that that magnetic ring that interacts with the ferrofluid against the clutch sleeve is centered properly. With this one, it's self-centering from what I can see. Okie dokie, a little more light lube. Lovely. We're going to go ahead now and reapply. We're actually going to take some of the bottle and just go like this. If it'll... Nope. You know what? Screw it. There's quite a bit on here, so we'll just go like a little dab will do you there, and then go full hog. back into place. Yeah, that's how she went. Looks good, sounds good, feels good. We think success. It feels like it gets near that magnetic field and then like wants to jump. There we go. Beautiful. Let's put the spool support on first, dummy. All right, now for the final spin before we shut her down. We should be good here. And for you guys that are still with me, greatly appreciate every second of every minute you guys spend here. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Gave you an insight into what the internals of the Exist look like. And yeah, my thoughts and impressions on it, along with what not to do with your $800 Daiwa reel, because this body, this can't be cheap. This is a couple $100 part. But yeah, back to square one again. Brand spanking new, feels great, looks great, and good for another couple thousand fish. So until next time, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was kind of fun. This was different, and it saved me from having to crack Oscar's perfectly good Exist. Now this one's a little bit smoother because it uses a lower gear ratio, feels a little lighter in hand due to that, but other than that they're near identical. Both spectacular reels. And yes, we did install the bail trip properly. Until next time, guys, tight lines, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.